Okay, good evening. My name is Dion Church, and I come before you on tonight to introduce Ms. Kimberly Thompson Esquire, who is a multidimensional certified fundraising executive with more than 13 years of progressive leadership in higher education. She has demonstrated success in all areas of institutional advancement. She has comprehensive campaign experience, 16 million, and proven a track record and solicitation of major and paying gifts of 6 and 7 figures from high net worth individuals, corporations, foundations, including more than 8 million in philanthropic gifts of cash, assets generated as a direct result of involvement in cultivation, solicitation, strategic involvement, and/or supervision. Ms. Thompson is an effective communicator with an authentic and appropriate and approachable leadership style who creates strategic alliances, relationships across a broad spectrum of stakeholders. She is a passionate advocate devoted to issues of access and affordability for those from diverse racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic backgrounds, and is an experienced professional with skill in brand management, content development, social media marketing, and graphic design. She was also educated in Wycomico County Public Schools. She graduated from James and Bennett High School, as well as Towson State University and Ohio Northern University School of Law. Ms. Thompson was a former Wycomico High School PTSA member. She was also a member of she's currently a member of AKA Links Incorporated and the board of directors of the United Way of Lower Eastern Shore. She has 2 children who both were educated in our public schools as well. Her oldest, Taylor, was a graduate of Wycomico High School, and she's soon to be graduating this month at American University. She will go on to pursue her law degree at Cardozo in New York City in the fall. Her son, Jeffrey, will graduate from Y High in June, and he will attend Polytech Upstate New York University pursuing a degree in mechanical engineering. I would like to present to some, introduce to others, Ms. Kimberly Thompson Esquire. Would y'all stand and give her a hand clap, please? She will be her moderator. She will be our moderator on tonight, representing the NAACP.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. You can tell I'm a very proud mother of my two children, but it is certainly a pleasure to be your moderator for tonight's forum, and I thank the Wycomico County branch of the NAACP for the opportunity to serve in this capacity. This evening is going to be a great evening. We are going to delve into many issues that are important to our community, but before we get started with that, we are going to lay some ground rules. And so for the audience, I have a few ground rules for you. First, please be respectful for all of the candidates in attendance. Please silence your cell phones and anything else that makes a noise, a beep, or a buzz at this time as well. And that goes for the candidates as well. We will also have a timekeeper who is sitting right here in front of me in the wonderful chartreuse shirt, and she will hold up a card for the candidates that will let you know that you have 15 seconds to respond. We will also have the opportunity for audience questions. Everyone should have been handed an index card. Does everyone have an index card? Okay. Those index cards are for you to write your questions down, and Ms. Ashanti in the back will capture those index cards, and I will intermingle the audience questions with my questions for the panel. Most importantly, I would like to make sure that there are no outbursts during the answers of the candidates so that we can fully hear all of their responses. And I would at this time like to ask you to join me in giving a round of applause for all of these candidates. Each of the people represented here at the table right now are running for public office, and it is certainly commendable that they have chosen to pursue a career in public service, and so we thank them regardless of their ideology and positions. It's certainly something that we appreciate in our democracy. At this time, I'm going to direct the questions or the ground rules to the candidates. I would ask that you are brief and succinct in responding to the questions. You will have 1.5 minutes to answer the questions that are posed to you. Similar to the audience, please refrain from interrupting other candidates. And when I ask you to give your introductions, please focus on yourself and your priorities and refrain from talking about the other candidates in your introductions. As the moderator, it is certainly my job to help keep us on task, but I do reserve the right to ask questions and follow-up questions. Does everyone agree and understand the ground rules as I have articulated them? In the affirmative, yes? All right, fantastic. So at this time, I would like to ask the candidates running for Wicomico County Council to provide a brief statement of introduction. We will, by the way, have an hour for this segment. After this panel concludes, we will have people that are running for Wicomico County Board of Education to come forward. In between the two, I will ask for anyone else running for office to stand and introduce themselves so that they can be recognized as well. So if I can start with my immediate left.
I'm Larry Dodd. Do you want an introduction?
Absolutely.
Okay, Larry Dodd. I'm currently a member of the Wicomico County Council, District 3. My priorities, 2 of them are very important to me and to the community, is there's a high crime rate in this area, and we need to get that under control. Larry Dodd, District 3. I'll start over since we got the mic. I don't know if you can hear or not. As I was saying, I'm a member of District 3. This is my going on my 4th year with the County Council on this term. I served previously 2002 to 2006. And then my priority was public safety, trying to get the crime rate under control and to fully fund our criminal justice system, our corrections, and our sheriff's department. Also education. Education is very important. We have to educate our kids. My kids are 17 years old. They just had a birthday on Monday. They're twins, Taylor and Tyler. And they're in the 11th grade at Parkside High School, so they're being educated in the Wicomico County public school system, so that's very important to me. We got a lot going on. I've served 5 years on the Board of Education, and I served 5 years on the Board of Education, and that was a great experience. And I kind of miss it, but I was asked to run for the County Council again, so I'm here now, and I'm trying to do the best that I can, and I've got 15 seconds left, so I'll pass it on. Thank you.
Let me just
much louder.
Okay, we have 2 things going on, and we're trying not to have people to stand up and go to the podium and then sit back down. So this is what we're going to do. Let me have that one.
You can have this one back.
Okay. We need this one for the video. Thank you. Okay. And this one so you all can hear. So 2 microphones will be passed down. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. My name is Julie Brewington. Thank you all for letting me be here this evening. I'm running for the County Council at-large position. There is one that is available or open. And I'm a mother of 2 18-year-olds that are graduating Parkside. Some of you may know them. They're quite the local artist in town. They have gotten a lot of awards with the heroin awareness and various things. I'm really proud of them. So they're graduating really soon. I am in real estate. I have been elected to the Central Committee since 2014. I was a candidate for state office in 2010. I like to think I've been involved in the community, that I'm concerned about our community and the quality of life here and what I can do to contribute and help, and I've strived to do that for many years. And I would like to extend that to serve to the County Council. And I'm really concerned about the safety of our public schools. That is one of my main things right now. I haven't seen anything change a whole lot in that area locally. That's a big concern. And again, our quality of life, and that means also quality of life for the taxpayers so that people are attracted to coming here. So thank you very much.
You can pass it over to my.
Hi, good evening. My name is Susanna Kane. I'm running for County Council for District 4. I'm new to politics. I've been a real estate agent for 20 years now on the Eastern Shore, first in Worcester County and then expanded into Wacomico County. I moved here a little over 6 years ago. I chose to move here from Worcester County. My husband was a graduate of Salisbury State. We have 3 children, 2 adult children who have already grown up and moved out of the house, and we have 1 high school student still left, a son. We decided we want to spend, I guess, the rest of our years in Wacomico County. So I kind of bring a real estate perspective as well as I have lived on the shore for over 20 years. We love Wacomico County. We think the potential here is limitless. We think that it's a great place to live, to raise a family, to retire. We want to see it move forward and progress. We live right near the college. We love all the cultural events that they offer. We love the city of Salisbury and everything that's happening there. My priorities right now, first and foremost, are education. Being a realtor and having people move into the area, the most important thing when I'm showing houses, most important to them is education. So that's the thing that we need to improve the most. We've got to get the funding for education. Oh, I'm sorry, have I done already? Oh, sorry. I could go on and on, sorry.
Sign a little bit higher so that
Sorry.
Thank you.
I ran out of time.
I want to welcome everyone this evening. I'm Bill McCain, and I'm running for Wycomico County Council at large. And I want to thank all the other candidates for running as well. I always say I'm not running against them, I'm running with them. And just a little background on myself. I grew up in Delmar, the town too big for one state. And went on to college at Washington College and got a degree in economics and came back to Salisbury. And actually then went to SU and got my master's in business administration. I've had a business here in Salisbury, W.R. McCain & Associates. We're a real estate valuation company. We've been in business for 30 years. And I also have previously served on the county council. I served from 2006 to 2010. I was vice president for 2 of those years. And I had my own self-imposed term limit when I ran. I said I was going to run for 1 term. But now I'm back. And I have 2 children. They both went to public schools here in Wycomico County. My wife is a school teacher. She's taught 32 years here in Wycomico County and is a former Teacher of the Year. We've both been very involved in the community. I'm running out of time. But I've been president of the Rotary Club. I've been chairman of the Peninsula Regional Medical Center. And I have 3 priorities, and they are education, education, and education. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michelle Gregory, and I'm running for County Council, District 3. I want to thank the NAACP for hosting this event. A little bit about myself. I've lived in Wycomico County for over 20 years. My husband is a native. He's born and raised here. We have 3 children. My oldest is 23, and my youngest is 17. All have attended school here. My oldest is disabled, and he stays home with me full-time. My history is that I've been an early childhood provider, so I'm very familiar with education and how important it is to get universal pre-K going in this county. We absolutely need it, and that is going to be my top priority. Some of my other priorities are Some of my other priorities are reinforcing unions and helping workers achieve more, get a $15 an hour minimum wage. And I think we can do that here in Wycomico County.
All right, tough act to follow there behind Michelle. My name is Jamad Gould. Probably the baby of the bunch, I think. Might be a little younger than everybody else up here. But I'm 27 years old. Born and raised right here in Wycomico County. Attended Parkside High School, home of the Rams, for any alum out there. And then I attended Bowie State University, where I attained my bachelor's degree. After I graduated, I elected to move back home, and I wanted to get involved in the community. So I started working with various organizations, and after taking some time back to really observe the lay of the land, I decided I should run. I should take more of a forefront and stop being in the background and start stepping up to really help my community at the best of my ability. So I elected to run for the county council seat at large. I currently reside in San Domingo, so if anybody's familiar with that area, that's where I'm at most of the time. My three main priorities: I'm looking to create a more transparent government. So I want to bring innovative ways to our county council so that we can live stream and get a real-time opinion from the community as a whole. I also want to ensure that we're investing in our youth, specifically education. I'm a firm believer in STEAM, so I want to add the arts aspect to that because I know it's the artist that really drives everything. And I want to work cohesively with our local governments. That's the city and the small townships that we have.
Good evening. My name is Ernest Davis. Can you hear me? My name is Ernest Davis. I'm running for re-election of County Council District 1. I'll give you a little background on myself. I've been married for 23 years to my wife who's sitting in the audience. We have 4 kids. The youngest is going to graduate this year. Some of my accolades, things I've done in the past 4 years that I've been on the council. On the west side, we improved the roads. One of the major roads, Jersey Road, Moore Street, which also included bike paths. We included a couple roads up there in San Domingo and several more. That's a big issue because of the way the state had cut the highway user fund. We was able to find money to still construct and redo some of the roads in the county. One of the biggest projects I worked on or helped get accomplished is West Salisbury, which is down the street, along with Cherie Samples. We fought Annapolis to get the funding to get the school built, and this fall the school will be open. Dr. Hamlin sitting in the audience. Some of my priorities that I still want to get done: school budget. We just had a big meeting on that. Money we want to fund for the schools, and we got a creek back here, Cody Cox Creek. Everybody talks about the flooding that's on the east and west side. This creek has been flooding ever since I've been living. So that's be one of the main things we're going to fight to try to get this done.
Well, hello, my name is Mark Kilmer, and I'm running for re-election in District 2, which is the western part of Wycomico County. And at these events, I used to be the young guy, but as years go by, I'm not that way anymore. So it looks to catch up to you soon, Jamad. So just give it time. But this is going to my 4th year on the county council. This is my first elected office. I have 2 children in Wycomico County Public Schools, a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old. And so, of course, education is important to me as it is to everyone else. In terms of the county council, though, what I'd like to talk about is that, I said not to mention some of the other folks here, but on the council, it's hard not to mention your colleagues because you have to work together. There's 7 of us, and we all have to work together cooperatively. And I think that's been what we've done these past 4 years, whether it's a Democrat, there's one Democrat on the council, and the rest are Republicans, but there's really no party in terms of a lot of the stuff we do. And some of the most important things we've done on that council is oversight in how your money is being spent and asking the hard questions to the agencies, whether that's the executive office or whether that's the sheriff's department. Maybe I've taken the lead in doing some of those things, and I view that as my role, and what I view as perhaps the most important thing that I'm going to want to keep focusing on is making sure that these agencies are accountable for how they spend your money and also for how they serve the public. And I think we've done that well and plan to continue.
Good evening. My name is Ushani Pinkett Shields. I'm glad everyone said education. Education is very important because one of the things that Swed said that in order to get good jobs, you have to have educated people and skilled people. And that's what we have to do is invest in our education. And we just don't need to say it, we need to prove it with our children. And youth employment. They had to cut the youth employment in the summertime. The Board of Education used to employ youth in the summertime. It was cut because of the budget cuts. We need to bring that back so youth can have employment, and not only just in the parks and in the janitorial service, but in offices and lawyers' offices, engineering offices. I have 4 grown children, and neither one of them live in the city of Salisbury. They moved out because of the finding jobs. And in order to bring good jobs, we have to keep our educated people here. We have children going to college, but we need to bring them back and let them open up their own offices and self-employment and small businesses, because I think economically the small business is what's going to make it in this community. I want to bring what I've learned on the city council to the county council. In the 10.5 years, Cody Cox, as you see, Isabella Street was closed for ever, and that was part of the Cody Cox plan. And that my time is up, and I'll answer any questions when we get to it, okay?
I'd like to thank the candidates for picking up on my cues and have the microphone. Each of the candidates has a card, an index card in front of them that is numbered 1 through 9, and at random I will ask them to start the question so that no one candidate answers the question first each time. Too many microphones and pens up here. Many of the candidates already talked about education, and so it is apropos that the very first question has to relate to education. The question for the candidates is as follows. How do you envision yourself working with an elected school board, and do you see universal pre-K funding as a priority for Wicomico County? And so, Mr. Dodd, number 1.
Okay, right now we currently work with the Board of Education, and like I said earlier, I served 5 years on the Board of Education, so I think we have a great working relationship. I think any relationship could be better, and something we're always working on. Funding is always an issue, it's always a priority, but several of the council members toured some of the pre-K schools a couple months ago. I think you were there, Dr. Hanlon, and I already knew, but some of the other council members didn't know the importance of universal pre-K. So we did find out that day. Some of the other ones did, but I do realize it's very important. My kids actually attended pre-K, and they've done very well, and I think that is very important. So we're going to do our best to fund pre-K. So thank you.
Please pass the black.
I have not read, apparently, Dr. Hanlon's book yet, and I'd like to look at it and look at the plan. But early childhood education is key to all children. Making sure that happens for working parents is a struggle for most of us. As a mother of twins, 2 babies at once, trying to work a full-time job is hard, but they did get, early education, and I do think it is very important to do. My priority, as I stated earlier, is the safety readiness in our local schools, and that is funded, and that we are making sure that is the first priority, and then to look further into universal pre-K.
I have had a chance to speak with members of the school board. I have read the plan, the vision that Donna Hanlon wrote, and I do firmly believe in universal pre-K. I also do believe in the fact that we do need to also get funding to retain the teachers and to provide for the STEM programs that were also in her vision.
I look forward to working with the elected school board. This will be our first elected school board. The county council now has a good rapport with the school board. We're all in this together. So obviously, we all need to work together to accomplish things. Regarding universal pre-K, I'm very much in support of that. Dr. Hanlon's 2022 vision plan has 3 pillars, actually: universal pre-K, increased graduation rates, and also retain and attract quality teachers. And so we need to remember there's three primary pillars to that plan. She's given us a strategic plan. As a county council, I feel it's our responsibility for us to follow that plan and provide the funding to make that plan happen. So, but I'm very much in support of universal pre-K.
Well, as I mentioned before, obviously I am very adamantly for universal pre-K. I think the earlier the better. I've seen far too many children who are behind on skill level, and so much of the brain development happens before the age of 3 that we absolutely need to start pre-K at age 3, I believe. We need to offer a full program to all families, not just, you know, a select few who happen to pull a lucky number. We need to fund that fully, and that includes paying teachers a livable wage. We need to be able to pay for quality teachers for quality education. That's the only way we're going to get that. But we absolutely need to work on getting universal pre-K for this county. There's no reason why we can't do it. As far as working with the elected board, I've always, you know, in any of my interactions with the Board of Education, with my own kids, or through the side that handles the Department of Child Care and the Early Childhood Department, I've always had a very good working relationship. Some of them I've known for 20 years, so I would absolutely be able to work with an elected board.
I'm probably the only, I think that's another only for me. I'm the only one up here that doesn't have children, but I'm the 9th born of 14 children though. So I've been a role model and helping to raise children since I can remember. And when I think about that, I think about me going through public school here and then me helping my nieces and nephews go through public school, as my oldest one is now already the junior in high school. So I've seen that, and I've seen the difference between when they have a all-day pre-K program and or when they get into our shore-up program, and the difference when they don't get into that and they just enter kindergarten or they go to pre-K for half a day. So when I think about that, it shouldn't just be a priority, but it should be the top priority for us to create a universal pre-K program. We have to get our kids up to level before they go into these higher grades. And as far as working with the board, it doesn't matter if the board is elected or if they're appointed. If the people are in these positions and we're all working towards creating a better community and a better school system, we have to work cohesively together.
Let me explain that some people don't understand. The county council doesn't make the budget. The budget is presented by the county executive. And what he puts in there is pretty much basically stays in there. But as far as education, the school board, that's the only department that the county council can add to. We can detract from any department, but they're the only ones we can add to. Last year, we gave them $440,000 to get charts for the kids. And of course, we all looking forward to get the pre-K. But what we have to do, we have to go into the budget and find the money that we can give to them. If we don't find enough of it, then we have to go in the general fund. I'm all in support of the pre-K. I'm a school bus contractor. I see these kids on a daily basis, and I see them from pre-K to 12th grade. So I see how this will improve and help those kids. So I'm fully supportive of finding the money to get the pre-K on board.
Well, as I mentioned, my son is in kindergarten, and every day I walk my son into school at Pemberton Elementary, and so I see the kindergarten kids, every day that he's in school with, and you know, they know me as Brian's dad. As any of you parents know, you don't have your real name when you go into school. It's always you're somebody's dad or mom. But, you go in there and I can see these kids and the differing range of ability that they have, when they enter kindergarten. And some are reading and some are very far away from reading. Some don't speak English, some don't speak at all because of, certain conditions. And so there's definitely a need for pre-K because they're, already by kindergarten you can see that some students are starting behind, and so I do understand the need for it. As Ernie pointed out, we have a job. The budget we received from the county executive did not have any money for universal pre-K in it. Now we can add to that, as Ernie said, but we have to find money from somewhere else in the budget. That means we have to cut somewhere else. Now I been all about cutting budgets when I've been on the county council. And I have a feeling that if we find money to cut from this budget, and there's money to be cut, that money will go for universal pre-K. I can't say that for certain. I can't say how much it will be, but I think there is a recognition of a priority. But that's what we labor under, is that we have to, because it wasn't included by the executive, we have to go and cut money from somewhere else to find it. So that's the situation on the ground as it exists now. So.
I too. Oh, is this the? Oh, God.
Talk in this one, yeah.
Okay, goodness gracious. I too support universal pre-K because I have two great-grandchildren that's 2 and 4. And I watch them using these tablets because everybody gives these kids these tablets. So I think if they were in the schools, they would use the tablets and really be a good learning tool for them, not just a babysitting tool that some of these young parents use it for. So as far as the budget, I hate the budget because you do have to cut for things that's really needed. Now we need to prioritize what we really need and what the voters want. And if the voters want universal pre-K, we need to find the money somewhere. And I have a good idea where to get the money from. I won't tell my secret, but I know where I would cut it. And of course, I like working with people. And I think working with the elected board, or as I said, appointed board, you need to communicate with each other and let people know how you feel, and they can tell you what the real deal is, and I can tell them what the real deal is in the budget, and get an understanding, and attend their meetings. And that's one thing we don't do. We don't attend the meetings so we can get educated, and we should educate our voters about attending these meetings, the Board of Education meetings, the County Council meetings, the City Council meetings, so you can be well informed and see it firsthand.
Thank you. We have now, after this round of questions, tested the ability of the candidates to multitask. And so we are going to place that black microphone in the middle and candidate 5. And we believe that Patrick will be able to pick that up. And so, actually, if you could give this to candidate number 6. The next question. Income equality is important for the NAACP. How would you address the income disparity between the Wycomico County Sheriff's Department and the Wycomico County Department of Corrections?
Starting off the top. I'm just being honest, I'd have to look into it further, see what how the budgets are currently constructed and why there is such a income inequality. Whenever I look at income inequality, and I've done some research as far as people of color's income inequality and women's income inequality throughout our nation, throughout our state here, there's always a reason behind it. So the first thing that anybody has to do to solve those issues is to figure out what the purpose is. Why did that income inequality come to be? And then you address that issue specifically. Like I said, I do not know that answer off the top of my head, but being elected, that would be something that I would that I would look into further and address that issue.
Could you pass the microphone to you?
I think the reason why there's a difference in pay between the sheriffs and the corrections is that the sheriff's department got what they call the LEOPs they fought for, and they got where they're automatically going to get pay raises. It's like their union fought for it, and well, the corrections didn't fight for it. Well, they were promised that they were going to get a pay raise in this last budget, but they didn't. But if we could, but that's one of the departments that we can't give money to. If we could, I would fight to give them money because we need those correction officers. They need to get paid more than what I think they said We have the 5th largest jail, county jail in the state, and they're the lowest paid in the state as far as income, and that's unacceptable. You can't keep quality people with that pay, and there's a big turnover rate out there, and you need those corrections guards there to keep control of those inmates. If you don't have it, they're gonna have total chaos out there, and I can see it coming. But like I said, that's one part of the budget we can't increase money in, but anytime it come across our table that they are asking for an increase, I will give it to them.
Last year during the budget season, a lot of county council members actually went out and toured the facilities out there. And that was real eye-opening to see the work conditions that go on in the Department of Corrections and see what the workers there, what they do and how well they work. I mean, we have some very good correctional officers in Wycomico County, and unfortunately they are not paid as well as they should. They have a very tough job, and we need good correctional workers. We need professionals to make sure that they not only are safe on their end, but make sure that they mistreat the inmates and things like that. We need good professional people for that. And part of the problem is that there's a shortage of correctional officers, whether it's ECI or Delaware or everywhere else. Good correctional officers are at a premium. And if we can't compete in this county for pay, we're going to lose our good officers elsewhere. And I think we already see that happen. And the ones who are here, I think they are good ones, but they also have working conditions where they're short-staffed and they may have to work double shifts, one after the other. And they have a lot of working conditions that a lot of us it would be very hard on us and our families to labor under. What we can do about that, Ernie described it pretty well. We can certainly support any moves in the budget to pay them better. We can advocate for that, and I think that our council has definitely tried to do whatever we can for the corrections officers, and I think we definitely will do that. And I think that President Ashanti keeps raising this at our council meetings, and we appreciate that too.
There's been a problem with the Wycomico County Detention Center since 2000. That I know of, because they came to Wesley Temple to discuss some of the problems that we're having. Now, we're talking about almost 2019, 2020, and we're still talking about the same problem. Poor working conditions, low pay, the morale is low, overcrowding of inmates, some of them sleeping on mats on the floor, and they're over capacity, and there's almost like a maximum of security. We need to address all the issues, and of course the pay. And until we're willing to find a way to work and find a way that we can give them more money, I think that if you've been trying for 4 years or 10 years or 15, 20 years, we need to get the answer. The answer is now, because my husband was a correctional officer at ECI, and it's a very serious job. And it's a very dangerous job. They don't have weapons. They couldn't take bully sticks. So you've got to do something, and you have to be willing to work with our county executive, whoever it may be, to find the answer. I don't know if there's a law that says we can't give them a raise. However, we need to find the answer, how we can get them more money and make the facility safe for everyone there.
Thank you. Could you pass the microphone down to candidate number 5? Then we'll go down to the right. Thank you.
Start with me. Okay.
That's right.
Well, I can only repeat what others have said, and that is that we need to pay all workers a living wage. The wages in Wycomico County in general are highly suppressed. We need to be paying, there's not a single county in the state of Maryland where a family of 4 can survive on less than $16 an hour. There's no reason why we cannot bring the wage up to $15 an hour. That would be a good start. But income inequality is a huge issue, not just in the corrections, but everywhere. And we need to encourage and strengthen union membership and getting that $15 an hour minimum wage passed. That would go a long way to helping retain and create the kind of people that we need in the corrections.
Thank you. I served on the council a decade ago, and one of our major issues was the corrections, was the lack of pay to our correction officers. Now, a decade later, we're still battling that same exact issue. And it really goes to a larger problem, and that is lack of sufficient revenue that we generate in our county. As Ernie just said, our correction officers are paid, ranked at the lowest in the state of Maryland. Our education system, we're funding second from the last in the state of Maryland. Our library is the lowest funded library in the state of Maryland. Warwick Community College, the lowest funded community college in the state of Maryland. I mean, come on, folks. I mean, Wycomico County, we can do better than that. We're a county we have a major university, we have a world-class hospital, we have a community college, we have parks and recreation, we have a zoo, we have natural resources, we have large employers such as Purdue. We are a county with all kinds of opportunities, and we need to do better for ourselves. We can do better.
It's hard to follow that. Ditto. I haven't done as much research on this subject as I have on some of the others that we just touched on and that I'm sure she's going to be asking questions on. But if there's that much difference in pay, then absolutely, if I'm elected or I'm on the council, I would absolutely advocate for there being higher pay for the correction officers. And we've all seen in the news what happens with these, the conditions and what can happen if, the conditions aren't right. We've seen what happens to these. We saw it in Dover, we've seen it in Frederick, and we absolutely don't want to have any incidents like that here in Wycomico County.
I have an old friend that just retired from ECI, and he long talked about his frustrations and struggles. I smile because his name's Big John. If you know him, you know who I'm talking about. He's a really big guy. But a lot of this I understand, at least from my interpretation, and like Susanna and some of the other people have stated before, I would like to know more about the pay and how it's constructed. Some of ECI is funded maybe by state, that I think, and I would like some clarification about how much the county contributes. But it is a serious issue. I know it secondhand from a friend of mine who's told me stories over the years about the struggles in the correctional facilities. I have a client that also works in the facilities, and they have all echoed there's a great need there now, and I think it needs to be looked into. Whatever that can be corrected with funding certainly needs to be encouraged, and I hope I have an opportunity to get a chance to get resolution. I can tell John in his retirement, we fixed it for you, so thank you.
Excuse me, thank you. The question was income inequality and disparity between corrections and the Sheriff's Department, and President Meredith Shante has expressed her passion numerous times in front of the County Council about that. And we hear her, we do listen to you. If you remember recently, the state of Delaware lost a corrections officer because they had no contact with him, and the inmates just took over and they had no protection. It's the same way with our county deputy or our county corrections officers. Not only is it a dangerous job, but these corrections officers, when they live out in the community and an inmate finds out where they live, many times they have to move because inmates don't want corrections officers. And I'm not saying that all inmates are bad. There's a lot of good people that are incarcerated. Got caught doing something they shouldn't have done, but there are some bad ones out there. One thing I would like to have seen done just recently, instead of hiring a new department head for corrections, I would love to have seen the corrections department fall under the Sheriff's Department, as you see that in many jurisdictions around the state and around the country. Actually, the Sheriff's Office runs the corrections department, and what you have there is you have two different aspects of the Sheriff's Department. You have one in corrections, you have one in Sheriff's, but it would be a career ladder, and that way it would give the corrections officers an opportunity to move up the ladder.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you could pass the microphone to candidate number 2. Much has been talked about with regard to revenue, and so the next question pertains to the revenue cap. The revenue cap has been in place for some time. Do you feel that it is relevant still, or is it a hindrance to our economy?
I think it is relevant still because we need to make sure that our taxes are affordable and that our community is attractive to people who want to come here. And when they're looking at taxes, property taxes, and it is, I'm in real estate, many of us on this panel are tonight, but people look at the affordability of taxes. What we need to make sure is that we are building a community that is enhancing quality of life, that can be addressing the needs of growing and supporting, especially our youth, and addressing crime issues. And we need to do that in an efficient manner that is respectful to property owners in the county, and I think it's possible. And I think it's been demonstrated that it's been possible because we have, rainy day funds and have been able to manage quite well with that revenue cap. We don't get everything we want, but we never will. So I think it is a reasonable expectation, and it could really be removed without a referendum, which would require it to be put on the ballot. And we would ask our people, our tax-paying citizens, all of us, all of our voters, do you want to pay more taxes?
Thank you. Could you pass it to the candidate number 4, please?
Okay. The issue about the revenue cap, it really hasn't been a hindrance the last 3.5 years that I've been on the council. We have been able to fund the budget without any drastic issues. When you fund the budget, you always get a budget that has a lot of wants instead of needs on there. So when you have a budget, you have to fund what is needed, not what necessarily the departments want. So that's always an issue. What I see about the revenue cap, the people put it on. So they voted for it, they put on the revenue cap through legislation. So if people want to take it off, I'd like to see it go on legislation that the voters decide whether they want it or not.
My opinion with the revenue cap is I think that for Wacomico County to move forward and to grow, I do believe that we do need change, and I think with change is going to be the need to lift the revenue cap. I do understand the reason why it was put in place in the first place, and that was because taxes were raised to a point that it was detrimental. People, taxes were raised by like 43 cents. To the point, that people were going to, elderly people especially, or people that have owned their homes for a long time, they could lose their homes because of it. But at this point in time, for us to move forward, I think that we really need to look at the revenue cap and consider changing things.
Thank you. Yeah, the revenue cap was put into place, it's been 18 years now. And particularly the first 7 or 8 years of the revenue cap, it was devastating to Wycomico County. That was during the boom years of the real estate market. And communities across the shore were seeing their budgets growing by 10 and 15%. And they were able to do a lot of things, build schools, community centers, et cetera. At the same time, we were having to reduce our budget because of the revenue cap. And we've really been struggling ever since. Our tax rate steadily declined. And and people need to keep in mind, our revenue cap, and I'm not going to go into details to try to explain it here this evening, but it's 2%. Our revenue from real estate taxes can only go up 2% from one year to the next. It's our revenue. Your tax rate changes. Your tax rate goes up, your tax rate comes down, your tax rate goes up. So it doesn't protect your tax rate. A lot of people think we have a tax rate cap, but we have a revenue cap. I'm a business person. If my business, if I said, I'm not going to grow my revenue, how would I have survived in 30 years in business? My expenses go up every year. The county alone, I think their health insurance went up, I think it was 17% this past year, but the revenue from the real estate can only go up 2% in 1 year. So it needs to be looked at. Just want to put a comment, Greater Salisbury Committee did an extensive study, and it is on their website, so I do recommend that you go to that. Thank you.
I feel like we are probably going to repeat ourselves a lot on this, but, you know, I also feel that the revenue cap was put in place, as he said, 18 years ago. That revenue cap is as old as my middle child at this point, and she's getting ready to graduate high school. So we really do need to revisit this idea and see exactly what the people want. But I feel like if we removed it, we could be doing so much more for our communities. And we could be investing so much more. As he said, your tax rate, it won't affect your tax rate. It just affects the amount of revenue we get. So I really feel like we need to put this on a referendum or whatever we need to get the voters to decide to lift it, and then move forward and get, you know, real investment in the communities with this revenue.
We started off talking about education and universal pre-K. Then we went on to speak about our income inequality as far as our sheriff's department and our correctional officers. All these things are related to our budget, our revenue. So when we're talking about the revenue cap, and Ms. McCain has alluded to it, how do you grow a business? How do you grow a community without added revenue into it? So to answer the question, yes, the revenue cap currently as constructed is a hindrance to our growth and to our community, because it's not possible to grow at the level, at the rate that we are currently growing as far as population and as far as what's needed in our community with the revenue cap as it's currently constructed in place. 2% doesn't really cut it. It may be, now the question really should be, should we get rid of it or not? Now that's a more debatable topic, but it definitely has to be looked at further, and it definitely, in my opinion, should be altered if it's not going to be gotten rid of, because we do have all these things that we want to do and that we all agree that we need to do, but we cannot do it with the amount of money that we're currently getting in revenue year by year. So we definitely have to look at that, and I definitely do believe that it is a hindrance to us as it is currently constructed.
Years ago, I talked to, at the time, Delegate Rudy Kane, and he came to a forum we had, I think it was with school bus contractors and the school board, and he mentioned the tax cap. And he said what people don't realize, the tax cap is like a savings to the county, where you're trying to save money. But on Annapolis, they look at it as you're trying to save money in your county, we're not going to give you no more. So they're looking at it, if we didn't have a tax cap, if we got in trouble as far as financially, they would assist us. But being that we have this tax cap, we don't get the money that we could get from Annapolis out of it. I mean, you look at the school board, you got the maintenance of effort. That is a fund that we can own, that we got to fund the school board that money. But if we could find, like they need $7 million now. If we didn't have this tax cap, maybe we could find the money somehow. I'm not saying get rid of the tax cap, but it need to be tweaked, looked at again. Like John said, it's been in position for 18 years. It's got to be re-looked at and reinvented. It's not. It's holding the county down. We're losing money.
Well, you know, from the way it sounds up here, the county doesn't have any revenue. Well, spending has gone up 18% for the past 3 years. I mean, the county doesn't lack revenue. The county's spending has gone up quite a lot. Now, it may not have gone to where we all wanted it to go, and that's certainly something that I agree with. But the revenue cap impacts a portion of our tax base. It doesn't impact all of our revenue. When the revenue cap's been in place, between 2003 and 2010, spending went up. Spending did not go down in that time. Spending went down 2010 to around 2014, I believe. But if you look at the way the revenue cap works, the tax rate ratcheted up under the revenue cap, and property tax revenue under that remained level, because that's where the revenue cap works. The real problem was our income tax receipts went down pretty dramatically, and that's why spending went down, and that's why the school budget had to be cut pretty dramatically. The revenue cap isn't perfect, and I know there's someone in the room that helped write, and I'm not going to, question what went on at that time 18 years ago. There's always things that can be improved in something. But Wycombe County is not starved for revenue. If we were, spending wouldn't have gone up like it had. Spending wouldn't have gone up during the 2003, I believe, the 2010 era. It's about priorities. It's about where you put that money. The revenue cap may need to be tweaked, but it is. I do like tax caps. Our county, a study under the former county executive, found that we were a very heavily taxed county, and so it's we can talk about this further in terms of why spending is where it is, but the revenue cap, I think there's some misunderstandings about it.
Well, as I said, revenue, which means money. And I think one of the main things we have to do is educate the people. Revenue cap versus the tax rate. And that is what's going on here. And if we've had plenty of money and we're not starved for money, we need to put it where it's supposed to be. The gentleman said we have money, but where is it at to give to education or increasing the detention center employees and the other things that need to be done, top priority things. But I think tax cap and the revenue cap and the tax rate should be educated, should educate the community as a whole, so they get a full understanding, and we need to get a full understanding and actually see what it has really done to our community. You don't have to hire a consultant. You just have to do some work and just see where have we come and where have we been and where are we going with this revenue cap.
Please hold that microphone. I am about to ask my last question that has been prepared, but we don't have any audience questions yet. So I just want to remind you that you do have index cards. If you have a question, please hand for a question, please hand them to Mrs. Shanti, who is walking around. The last question for you, starting with please number 9, candidate number 9. Please share your viewpoint on land use policies as it relates to the increased use of farmland being used for solar panels and the concerns of concentrated animal feeding organizations near residential dwellings.
Well, the answer I would have, environment is one of my issues, one of my concerns, our environment. I would not, like I know we had the chicken house issue, and I think that I lived near Purdue for a few years, and that's in a residential area, and I think that was awful, and it still is. So I think that we need to just preserve some land for farming, because farming is one of the biggest industries in Maryland, the state of Maryland. It's commercial, 350,000 people employed by farming alone. So we have to see how we can basically work together. And we need to change the zoning laws to preserve some of the land so we can protect our waterways. We have to protect our water. There's so many issues in talking about environment. The farmers need to do farmland. Then we need development. People are moving here, they're retiring here. So you're going to have developments. Then you have to worry about the water, the pollution of our water, make sure that is protected. And so when we have to look at all of that. But I think one of the ways to change this is the zoning laws. And I think you all have started doing that from my understanding. The county has. Have you started, Cal? Okay, good. That is good. Because that's a very serious issue. That's very serious.
Yeah, on that, we did change the zoning laws. We went through a lot. we read a lot about chicken farms over the past couple of years. And we went from one line in the county code that governed chicken farm regulation to 4 pages. And I know that didn't make everybody happy, either on the farmer side or the people that were concerned about the chicken farms. But one of the things we did was made it a lot more difficult to put large chicken house operations in areas that are slated for town growth. So to hopefully move them more out into less populated, more ag land. And so my view is generally that if you're a farmer and you're working the land, you should have options for what you do with your land, whether that's chicken houses or solar panels. But I also understand that there's some issues, the fact that we have so many restrictions on what farmers can do on non-ag land, that there's concern about losing land that's zoned ag, but putting solar panels on them, so farmers are concerned about that. So, once you start regulating land use policy, it's all about the trade-offs, and there's only, so many acres of land that can be used for agriculture in Wycomico County, and not as much as being used for houses anymore because of some of the state rules. But, this issue about what farmers' land can be used for is probably some of the most complex and gives us some of the biggest headaches on the county council, and I don't think we have an easy answer on any of it. So maybe Ernie does, I don't know, he's pretty good. So.
Well, like you said, we fought one of the largest chicken farms that were going to be built down here on West Road, and we fought. And what people don't understand is most of these big, large CAFOs aren't local farmers, and we were fighting against that. We weren't fighting against the local farmers. What we were fighting against industry. Most of these large CAFOs are people coming out of Virginia, New York. They're bringing this thing in as a business. They're coming in and making money off of these chicken houses just by the quantity that they got. And we fought, and like Mark said, we did change some of the zoning laws to restrict some of how they can build some of them. But me personally, I think more laws need to be enacted on some of these CAFOs, and don't these farmers take it personal. We're not against the local farmers or the local growers here. We're just trying to keep out these companies that are coming in here to taking advantage of our county because we have weak laws pertaining to these CAFOs, and that's what happened in Wycomico. We didn't have the laws on the book to restrict them. That's why all these CAFOs came in and tried to be built all at once. And luckily we fought some of them off, and I think only one is going to be built in San Domingo. But it has been built, and I think that the growers themselves don't really know that that law has changed since they originally built their permit. So they're going to be in for a shock when they do apply for the permit. But like I said, I think some of the laws still need to be tweaked. Like Mark said, it's a complex issue when you're dealing with farmers and ag.
Thank you, Ernie, and thank you for reminding me about that CAFO that's being built by my house. Like they said, it is a very complex issue, and we are historically and still are a traditional farming community, and we can't get rid of our farming commerce. So as far as zoning, it is very complex, and we do have to hear all sides on that. Me personally, I would like to see, just like Ernie just stated, I would like to see stricter laws. I would like to see for CAFOs and these larger corporations to have their chicken houses further away from residential areas. Like we just said, there's one that's being built literally a stone's throw away from my home. I don't know if I want to come home every day and smell chicken manure and dead chickens and things of that nature, because as the Community Healthy Air Act, we were looking to pass in Annapolis, the study that it was doing is going to see if there is a correlation between those and any health issues. And I don't want to be, or my children that I hope to have in the future, or my nieces and nephews that live in the community, or any other young children to be victimized because we made any types of mistakes as far as zoning. So it's something we really need to look into, study more, and try to keep those larger facilities away from all of our residential communities and ensure we have the right amount of solar panels to to agricultural land for farmers.
Well, Jamad basically took words right out of my mouth. 1 in 4 middle schoolers in Wycomico County have asthma, and we need to get the Community Healthy Air Act passed statewide so we can start studying these CAFOs and make sure that our air is clean. All 3 of my children have dealt with asthma, and we don't even live next to one of these. Me personally, I grew up right behind a ConAgra plant, processing plant, and let me tell you, you want to talk about smell? Yeah, so I completely understand what these communities that are dealing with this are going through. And I really do think that there need to be stricter regulations on where these, CAFOs can be.
Thank you. Regarding large solar farms, I think a lot of people may not realize these farms are, a lot of times you're talking about 400, 500, 600 acres. So these are very large production units. And this is happening a lot across the Delmarva Peninsula. I actually testified as an expert in a case in Dorchester just about a couple months ago. And unfortunately, it divided a community because you had farmers against farmers. And because there's nothing in most of our zoning codes that addresses these large solar farms. And you're going to see more and more of these across Delmarva because we're flat. We're a very attractive place to construct solar farms. And we're in the middle Atlantic. So this is coming. So we need to get policies in place to address that. Regarding the CAFOs, we need to address actually our land use policies in our ag district. In our zoning code, residentially, we have multiple zoning codes. We have R15, R30, R10, et cetera. Commercial, we have C1, C2, C3. Industrial, we got I1, I2. But when we get to ag, we have ag, period. We don't have different codes in our ag district. So as a policy, I think we need like an A1, A2, A3. We can designate certain areas where we should have. There's a place for CAFOs. I'm all for poultry, but it needs to be in places where it's more appropriate, not on conservation easements, and not in residential districts.
First of all, my district, being District 4, is not quite as rural as other districts, so we don't necessarily have chicken farms in District 4. Maybe a little bit, maybe as you go towards Toadvine in that area, you might find some more rural areas. But as far as, I'm always for protecting the environment and making sure, that safe land use, of course. But too much restriction on land use can be detrimental as well for real estate, from a real estate perspective. And since I'm a realtor, of course, that's something that I always think about. Traditionally, this has been a farming community, the Eastern Shore. I know every time I sell a property, everyone signs something that's called a right to farm notice. So anytime you buy a property on the Eastern Shore, you're signing off wherever you buy that you could be inconvenienced by manure, tractor, loud noises, offensive smells, odors. So it's pretty much part of our community.
So I'm just going to talk about the right to farm, which I explain to people when they're buying a house is, this is an agricultural community. It might stink. So sign right here. But we are an ag community, and we have a lot of interconnected reliance on the economic drivers of this area that result in the ag area. And so we need to make sure that we're doing the right things by our farmers and protecting property rights, but also making sure that the quality of life is the best that we can offer. But I mean, we are an ag community, that's why everybody wants to come here, because we've got lots of land. And they're like, I know where I am because it smells like chicken when you drive over the Salisbury Bridge. So, it's a balancing act for our community, and one we'll probably continually struggle with, but we need to make sure that we always have full discussions about it.
Thank you. Excuse me. I was waiting for somebody to bring up the right to farm, because that is the law. Finally, it must have been the vibe down this end, but we do have to protect the rights of the farmer. And like two of my colleagues mentioned earlier, the legislation is very complex, and we do try to find a happy medium. Every single day, when most of you in this room eat your dinner, breakfast, lunch, you eat some form of chicken, whether it's eggs, chicken noodle soup, fried chicken, chicken salad. Chicken is a major staple. It's also the biggest industry on the Eastern Shore here. So if we put the farmers out of business, we're going to lose a lot of jobs around here. So we have to protect that industry. I am against what you guys seen in this area last year, and my colleague, Mr. Davis, fought dearly for it. Was it 13 major chicken factories put on a piece of land? I am against somebody that doesn't even live in this area buying and investing just to put up big chicken houses. I don't like that. but we did work on the legislation. We required buffers. It's going to take a while. It's probably going to have to be tweaked in the future. As far as the solar panels, they are popping up everywhere. Route 50, you see them by Purdue. But the farmers are doing this, putting up the solar farms now because it's a way to make extra revenue, because it's hard to make a living as a farmer. So in the future, we're going to have to educate ourselves more and do something about legislation for these solar panels.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the audience for the questions. We have received 6 questions, and we have less than 2 minutes. Or 5 minutes or so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for the panel to abbreviate the time to 45 seconds for one question. And I'm going to read the other 5 after you finish so that you can think about it, and perhaps some of the audience members who had that question can talk to you between the transition. And so I appreciate your time and your feedback. The question for candidate number 3 starting is, what is your stance on the Winder sign on the courthouse lawn? 45 seconds.
Okay. Okay, so I'm not quick. Okay. My feeling, I'm actually a history major. So my feeling is when it comes to something that's historical, I think that it's important that we preserve history, and but that it also has a place. I think that my understanding is that was not the original place, that it was actually, I think originally it used to be where Evo is located, and it was relocated to where it is now. And I think that if it is offensive, and if it bothers people, then I think we need to seriously consider moving it.
The historical significance of the sign, I mean, I'm not sure how much significance it does have. I mean, there's been some publicity on that, but anything that divides our community, let's move it. Let's get rid of it. If it's creating division, let's move it.
General Winder wasn't from here. He doesn't belong here. It is, as he said, dividing our community. We need to get rid of it. It needs to go. If someone wants to put it in a museum, so be it. But he was not he was not the kind of person we should be memorializing. Frederick Douglass spoke on that spot. There were lynchings on that spot. It doesn't belong there. There are other things that we can memorialize there.
I find this question kind of laughable at this point, because I think anybody that's seen the documentary, The Sign, knows my stance on this. That sign is one of the most deplorable things we have in this community. To have a traitor to the country that denounced his commission, that oversaw the torture of Union soldiers, and for us to commemorate him in any fashion, especially on county land, isn't what any county should be doing. I've said it many times that if we want to have a sign, it should be made more accurate and moved to a museum, but it does not have a place there on the courthouse lawn.
As John said, if it's dividing the community, it should be removed. And I know a lot of people are sitting there going, well, you're on the council, why haven't you moved on it? Well, I represent District 1, and I can tell you, not one person from my district has approached me about removing that sign. So I'm not going to stick my neck out there and say, let's move this sign without my backing of the people in my community. If they come forward, just like I did with the chicken house, I'm going to fight for it. But no one in my community came to me and said, let's move this sign. But if it's defensive and we want to move it, I'm all for it.
So on the sign, it's 45 seconds isn't enough time to talk about it, but it's become divisive in the community. It's been divisive on both sides. People that see it as a symbol of white supremacy, people that see it as a symbol of heritage. It's a historical marker, and I think that we can have a good discussion about history, and a history that should be commemorated on the courthouse lawn. And obviously, we don't do a good job of commemorating Wycomico County's history, both good and bad. We don't do a good job of commemorating the African American history in Wycomico County. We don't do a good job about commemorating Civil War history here. I think that this could be an opportunity to have a good conversation about our history. I think, however, that if both sides view it as a symbol rather than as a historic sign, it's going to be hard to have that discussion that brings us together.
I'm a member of District 1, city and county now, and I would like to see the sign removed and put somewhere neutral, or put it in the Nash Center, or put it somewhere besides the government property. I think those signs, is like they've said, it's divisive. Our government should not be divisive. The county government should be united, the city government should be united, and that sign should be removed. Irregardless, history is very important to me. I'm a history buff. But yes, Civil War was history, bad history. Brothers fought brothers, but we need to remove the sign to bring unity. And I do have an idea of what should go on that piece of property. It's the people who died there, the young man that was lynched and the victim. And I think that wouldn't cost the county any money.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We've got a new microphone. As a lot of people have said, it has been somewhat divisive the past couple months. Unlike some of the other candidates, I've heard from both sides. There's a lot of people that don't look at it as being offensive. And there are some people that do. I hate to see division. I really do. I think, like Councilman Kilmer said, it's open for discussion. We do need to discuss it. But history is important. I'm a very big history buff. I spend a lot of time in Gettysburg and Williamsburg and Fredericksburg, Richmond. I go all over. I love colonial history, Civil War history, so I educate myself. But I think that there are other things in this community that are more important that we need to talk about right now. Education. We're talking about funding education and also the crime. So it was a good question. Thank you, guys.
Just the last one. It is. I've really enjoyed being here. So yeah, that is a very divisive issue, and that makes me really sad. I grew up in this town. My dad had a business downtown, and this little girl, I was all over the plaza in that area, and I probably walked by that sign, lots of times, and I really never even noticed it until recently. And to me, it was always just an historical marker, and it makes me sad that, a piece of metal is causing division, where I don't think there should be meaning put on it, but rather more of a connection between us. So that has made me disappointed that some people think whitewashing history is a good solution. I do not.
Thank you. As you continue to go out and campaign, I'd like to share with you 5 additional questions for you to ponder that some of the constituents here tonight have asked. The first question is, are you willing to go out into the public to collect 10,000 signatures to change the revenue limitation issue? Next question, would you support funding for Fire Station 13? What, if anything, can be done so that the County Council's priorities are reflected in the budget before the budget is submitted by the county executive? Do you condemn the construction of the 190-mile natural gas fossil fuel pipeline proposed to be built along the entire eastern shore of Maryland? And lastly, what are some things and ways to help keep youth active positively after school hours? If you would ponder those questions as you continue about the community, I'm sure our constituency would appreciate that. Would you join me in giving them a round of applause? Get up so we can change over very quickly, and the rules that I shared earlier at the beginning of the County Council Forum apply still. Does everybody understand on the audience end? Yes? Candidates for Compton County Board of Education, everybody is with me. And so at this time, I'd like to give you a minute and a half to introduce yourself. Right here.
Good evening. I have been a lifelong resident of Wycomico County, and we've raised our family of 3 here. All of us graduated from Salisbury University. I am a very concerned citizen. Never thought I would be running for any kind of office politically, but as I have worked in the community and worked at my church, I see a growing achievement gap when I look at the children in our church. So out of seeing that came a deep desire to want to be a part in knowing that all of our students are successful in Wycomico County. I often see at church when our children graduate from high school They go to college and they never return. We feel the loss in our community, we feel it in the church, and it's a loss for Wycomico County. So I want to be a part of working with the educators, the parents, and our community to make sure our children are successful so that they will be productive citizens and self-sufficient.
Could you please state your name, please?
Kalani Watson.
Good evening. I'm Gene Malone. I currently serve as Vice President of the Board of Education. I was appointed in 2016. I have 3 grown sons. They graduated from our public schools. My wife and I met in our public schools and both graduated. My parents graduated from the public schools, as did my grandparents. So when I had the opportunity to serve on the school board, I felt it was time to give back because we've all gained a great deal from going to school in this county. But like Alana, we need to move things forward, and we need the Wycomico County Public Schools to be schools that people aspire to attend, not have to decide, do I want to attend these or do I want to go to private school? And that's the direction that I think we want to take the schools, and it's the direction that I want to take the schools.
My name's John Palmer. I'm in District 5. I'd like to speak a little bit about experience. I've put 6 boys through the Wycomico County school system, so I'm familiar with what is going on there. I've dealt with special education, IEPs. While I was in the military, I was fortunate enough to do 2 tours at the Naval Academy, in which I taught in the engineering department at Rickover Hall. But unlike a lot of teachers today, whereas at the Naval Academy, I had absolute control of the class. Today in schools, sometimes it can be difficult for teachers. So we need to support the teachers in the classrooms. And I believe that's about all. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Seamus Ben, and I'm running for Wycomico County Board of Ed, District 4. I'm 17 years old. I will turn 18 July 7th, and I believe I can bring a valuable youth perspective to the board and its decisions, because we need to have representation from the people that are most affected by the board's decisions, the students themselves. Thank you.
Hi, I would like to thank the NAACP for having this forum and inviting us all here to participate. My name is Michelle Bradley, and I am running for school board for District 1. And I have a child who's 15, 2 years younger than Seamus here. But he does have a point about having a different perspective and a youthful perspective. For instance, since I still have a child in the school system, I do have more of a pulse on what's going on in the schools. And I think that would be a valued perspective. Plus, I come from 20 years education experience myself. I currently work for the Office of Child Care, and I have been a director of an early Head Start, so I have worked from birth to 3 there. I was also frontline staff while I was going to college to get my master's degree at UMES at a daycare center and a private school. And I had my student teaching here in Bennett, Y Middle, and Glen Avenue, and had to travel back and forth because I was a special teacher, and that's what we do, because I was really glad to see, I think it was Mr. Gould that mentioned STEAM and the arts and how they work across the curriculum. So I'd like to see that brought in as well. Thank you, 15 seconds, okay. One of the things that I've noticed the most, and as a parent, and since I have worked with different programs getting families more engaged, parental involvement and engagement is one of my top priorities. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Dave Gosley, Senior, Councilman of District 3. I'd like to thank NAACP for hosting this event tonight, and other honored guests are here. I'm local born. I was born and raised in Sharptown, 1940. I have children that went through the Wycomico County Board of Education, the school system, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren that have gone through the system. I've served in the military. I've served on Salisbury City Police Department, Sheriff's Department, in the state of Maryland Division of Corrections. And the one that talked about the Division of Corrections being dangerous, I know where they're coming from. I had 36 years in law enforcement in related fields. I went to Salisbury State University, and I've owned businesses while I was with the police department, sheriff's department, because in those days we only made $59.50 a week, don't pay salaries, and I had 3 kids to raise. Right now I own DOT Training and Services, LLC, which we train truck drivers, we train companies throughout the United States. I've been on the Wycomico County Central Committee, Republican Central Committee. Currently serving an appointed term on the Airport Commission, a member of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm also a member of my local church, Calvary Baptist Tabernacle.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ann Bringham Suthalski, born and raised here on the west side of Wycomico County. Actually, my father was born in a house on Delaware Avenue. I have educated in Wycomico County schools. I have a BS and a master's from Salisbury University, and 31 years in education in Laurel, Delaware school system, where I represented the district on state committees for testing, curriculum, and implementation of the middle schools. I also represented the state of Delaware in the International Reading Association throughout the United States for 20 years, giving presentations on adolescent literature and secondary reading methods. I have also taught at Salisbury University. I've been recognized by the Wycomico County Commission on Women as an outstanding woman leader in Wycomico County. I served as a civil judge on the Zoning Appeals Board and the Wycomico County Board of Elections. I have been president of many civic organizations and many boards here in the county. My children and grandchildren attended school here, and I volunteered in Fruitland Primary, both Fruitland schools, and also in the magnet program. And I was on the committee that helped hire Dr. Hammond.
Thank you. Before I ask the first question, we have a slight modification in the rules for this evening's discussion with these candidates. We're going to limit the questions to 1 minute, answers to 1 minute. And I'd like to remind the audience that you have the index cards, and if you could, if you have any questions that you'd like to have asked, if you can get them to me earlier, that would be great. I appreciate it. And so if you could hold the microphone, I will pose the first question to you if you cast the microphone down. Federal data released on April the 24th, 2018 shows racial disparities in school discipline worsening, with African American students facing far greater rates of school arrests than their white counterparts. What do you think is creating this disparity, and as a board member, what actions, if any, will you undertake to address this matter?
I spent 31 years in the classroom. I remember one student telling me one time, I treated every student fairly because I treated one student as nasty as I did the other. I think that the teachers do treat their students fairly. I hear teachers talk about discipline problems in the classroom. I never saw color in the classroom, and my fellow students would attest to that. If there is a problem, I think it should be addressed. But as a teacher, I never saw any problems, any unfairness.
In my experience in law enforcement and corrections and everything, I always taught the people that I taught, be fair, firm, and impartial. And every case, there are no two cases the same because they are individuals. So each case has to be developed and also disciplined or non-disciplined on its own merits. It shouldn't have any district as far as race, color, creed, or anything else. Each thing it should be decided on its own. That's the only fair way to do it.
I think most teachers don't see color in their classroom, and they try and be objective with every single student. That being said, it is very surprising. There's some current research going on that inequity in the classrooms. There was a study that was done based on your vision. Some teachers were told during the research to watch a video of 2 white children, white boy and a white girl, 2 African American children, African American male and African American female, and were told that they were going to have to watch this and something was going to happen and they're going to have to write how they would discipline or correct the behavior of the child. And what it did was it tracked the teacher's eyes to where they went. And the majority of the time they went to the black male child. And the teachers were stunned when they got the graphic back showing the tracking of their eyes where it went. And they absolutely didn't think that there was any kind of preconceived notion that that child was going to be the one to disrupt. But in actuality, their eyes were going in that direction.
Thank you. I don't believe that the solution is just to say, I don't see color. I think that we have to address the issues and have discussions with teachers and students and bring them together and see what we can do to further this. But I definitely don't think the solution is just to say, I don't see color, because that's not going to help anybody.
You see culture.
I'd like to remind the audience to refrain from that. Thank you.
I was in the Welk Center a couple weeks ago with the kindergarten, pre-kindergarten students. You know those little kids, they don't know color. They're kids. They play with one another. It's something that they learn from adults. We need to teach our kids to be like they are in kindergarten, just kids. And I also think we need to know what these stats really are. We need to have people involved in the education system, parents to come in to the schools, actually look down and see what the stats are and not just make general comments like everybody's not treated right. You know, that's general, it's not right. Please come into our schools, look at the figures that we have, and any suggestions that you have, please give it to us. You are the community, you know what's going on. We need your assistance. Thank you.
I think the question was, what are we doing, or what will we do as board members to about these statistics? And I think we're already doing that under Dr. Hanlon's leadership. Dr. Hanlon has given the power to these principals to discipline students and to be fair, and she's involved and her team's involved with a lot of these discipline issues that are raised higher and go to the board level. And someone else said it's about dialogue. It is about dialogue. It's about understanding what happened and understanding why the different folks are treated different ways if they are. I know we're already pursuing that avenue through the schools, and I know our leadership team is looking at this every single day.
In thinking about the question, I also believe that in a classroom, there is one lead, and that's the teacher. I think it's very important for a teacher to be able to maintain classroom control. We see a difference in the teachers today than when I was in school. Coming right on the bounds of integration, we had the opportunity, when we were integrated, we saw a number of teachers that were Caucasian, a number of teachers that were African American. Because we live in a diverse society, I think it's very important that all children have representation for that diverse society when it comes to educators. I noticed that, and I believe that we should have and encourage more males to be teachers, and we should encourage more people of color to be teachers. We don't.
Please hold the microphone for the next question. Many of us have seen on the news, all of us have seen on the news, the various violence that's occurring in our schools. And so the question is, from the audience, do you believe our schools need more school resource officers or more social work?
More resource officers?
School resource officers or more social work?
Like the deputies, right?
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
I believe what we really need is a partnership between educators and parents. I believe there is a strong disconnect between parents who don't recognize their responsibility as parents. It starts before they get to school. And we have to learn to, not only is it required that the student respect the teacher and the administration, but there has to be an equal respect of the student for their needs and understanding of where they are. I don't think more social workers are the answer. I think our social workers are overworked and underpaid also. I don't think we need to have more security in the schools. I think we have to be realistic and say our community really has a problem. And that problem, it starts at home with families first.
Thank you.
If I had to make a choice, if the question was, do you want more social workers or do you want more SROs, I would take social workers, because SROs are going to handle the problem after it's occurred. It's a violence issue normally. If you're going to take social workers, then you need them to be there to counsel these students, but it does start at home, and that's what we're seeing in the schools. The problems, Don Fitzgerald says it best, are present. We don't have any problems in the school until we open the doors, meaning the problems come from the outside, and we can't legislate those problems. More social workers working with these families and working with these students, maybe we can handle the problems and head the problems off before they get to the next level, which would be with the SROs.
Choice is easy for me, it's social workers, and that's because the social worker has the ability to contact parents and actually go into the home. That's what they do, that's what they're licensed to do. They can get in with the family and find out what is going on in this family and suggest ways of improving it and trying to make things easier for the kids who are coming to school. So social workers are needed, very needed.
I believe that I think that if we are going to have SROs in schools, and as a student of James M. Bennett, soon to be graduating, I don't know. I believe that we absolutely need to at least have the SROs trained in, working with juveniles, and so that the SROs aren't making it worse and treating the students as any other person on a street, because they aren't. They're students. So that's what I believe.
I am glad that we now have SROs in all of our middle schools and high schools. Pittsville was missing one, and they had to share with Parkside, and now they have one, so I'm glad to hear about that. Our teachers are already kind of working as social workers on a daily basis. The things that they have to go home and process that they hear and see from these children that attend our public schools would probably make some of us squeamish. But I do agree that what you were saying down there, Ms. Watson, I believe, about parents and reaching out. But I think the administration has the onus of responsibility to reach out to the families and the parents, because a lot of our parents, especially in my district, in District 1, have bad prior experiences with education. So they don't want to go into the school system. They have bad experiences. They don't want to relive it. So we need to start making those experiences more positive and pulling them back into the schools. And so they're invested in the schools. We know they're invested in their children, but we need to have them invested in the schools as well. And we can't legislate it, but we can definitely write policy for that reach out program.
First of all, I would bring 36 years of police experience to the table. I've had to both be a psychologist, psychiatrist, and whatever the case may be when I'll be called to homes or in the jail system to quell a riot or whatever the case may be. I run the transportation 2 to 10 transportation team for ECI for 9 years. I've seen it. I've seen what can happen. One size does not fit all. We need a balance between security officers and their role, and also they're able to be interacted with the students as well as the psychiatrists or social workers or whatever the case may be that you would have, depending on the level in the school. their interaction too. But you also need the parents' interaction with the children. And we got to stop the breakdown in communication between law enforcement agencies to prevent what happened in Florida.
Thank you. We already have a team in place in the secondary schools. We have guidance counselors. We have the resource officers. And we also have a very invaluable person that hasn't been mentioned, and that is the school nurse. The school nurse, my experience, knows more about the children in the school than probably anyone else, because the school nurse sees these children regularly. I think a combination of the resource officer, the guidance counselors, and there are multiple guidance counselors in these schools, the dean of students, and the resource officers working as a team can definitely spot some of these problems before they happen.
If you could hold the microphone, the candidate number 8, please. Pass it to the gentleman to your right. Right there. So the question from the previous panel, do you see universal pre-K as a funding priority for Wycomico County?
I'm not as adept in the information that the previous panel had. But any time that we can take our younger children and introduce them into education and during their formidable years, I think would be a benefit. As far as the funding goes, whatever needs to be done, I think that would be up to the county council to take care of, to see the funding is there. But anything that we can do to bring our younger students into the fold and have equality, maybe that's where you ought to start with equality at, is the younger ones. And let them come up the same ways, they're playing together, and then go ahead and go to school together and maintain their graduation.
Same question.
I'm kind of torn about universal pre-K. I sit on the Somerset County Early Learning Advisory Committee and the Judy Center Committee. And Somerset County is one of 2 counties in the entire state of Maryland that truly have universal pre-K. That means it's for all. Wycomico County does have some pre-K classrooms now, but it's limited, and you have to qualify in order for your child to attend, to get those spots, and they are highly sought after because it's free. But that being said, we do need to start earlier, but I think when we talk about introducing pre-K, including 3-year-olds, 3-year-old education and curriculum is completely different than a 4- and 5-year-old. They learn through play, and I don't think the public school systems are quite set up to go younger than that. But if Somerset County can do it, so can we. We also have private businesses out there, and we have Shore Up, we have the Head Starts that are already accommodating that. So we have a budget downfall. Why don't we let these businesses and these nonprofits continue to work in partnership with the school board and other agencies to continue to provide that service until we can get full funding?
I believe that we should completely fund universal pre-K for all students so that they all have the chance to succeed and that they all start at the same level so that they can, progress equally.
I don't know where all the county councilmen went who were here a little while ago, but I do want you to know that on the back of my card, I was keeping track of those who were saying they would support additional funding for pre-K, and I will remind them of that when we go up to meet with them in a couple of weeks. As for the value of it, I mentioned earlier I was over in that Welch Center, and if you could see how these little kids are interested. In each class, there was 15 kids, and there was a teacher, there was a intern from Salisbury University, and another assistant there. And they had control of those classrooms, and those little kids were throwing their hands up to answer the questions. They were doing exactly what the teacher said. There's a couple little ones that didn't do what the teacher said, and they went to the side. But it is invaluable. They learn in the schools what they are not learning at home, and that is invaluable. We need it.
I 100% support universal pre-K. We've talked tonight about the school violence. We've talked about the issues in school. Do we need social workers? Do we need SROs? What we need is to get our children introduced to the school system earlier and get them socializing. It's not just education, it's the socializing with others, of different backgrounds, different diversity, all kinds of things. But we need to get them ready at an earlier age. By the time they get to third grade, if they're not reading on that level, the statistics are much against them of being successful later on in life. So let's get them into the school soon. Let's get them socializing with other folks. Let's teach them. They'll be kindergarten ready, first grade, etc. It's just infinitesimal the good it can do. It gets to, we'll have a higher graduation rate. People will stay here, get jobs. Everything will be beautiful again.
I also fully agree with universal pre-K. I believe that when the student does not attend pre-K and his peer does, when they get to kindergarten, the one that hasn't been pre-K may actually be at a disadvantage. And from speaking to educators in the county, what seems to be happening is when there is that disparity, when they get to, say, the second, third, or fourth grade, they're at different levels. And it is very difficult and unrealistic to expect the teacher to make up for that difference in grade level. So that really puts them behind as they progress through the system. They will be constantly behind. And then what happens is, I remember the initiative of No Child Left Behind almost 2 decades ago, where in reality the children are left behind because when they graduate 12th grade, they're not at the proficiency level that they should be.
Thank you. As microphone is number 2, this question is for you, and then we'll go back to it.
Because I haven't answered that question yet.
I'm sorry.
No, she hadn't answered that question.
Thank you.
We went to him and didn't come back to
Thank you for keeping me on
him.
track. Absolutely.
With my 2 older grandchildren, I volunteered at Asbury Child Development Center for pre-K. When the 3rd grandchild came along, it was the first year for pre-K in Wycomico County, and she qualified for it, and I volunteered once a week in her pre-K classroom. Some of the children were ready for pre-K, some were not. It's just like many people hold their children back a year because they don't think they're quite ready. There were children in the classroom with this is professionally speaking now, that I do not feel were ready to actually start, all 4-year-olds. The program I thought was very, very good, but before I actually make a decision, I would like to see the curriculum and how it coordinates with the kindergarten and first grade curriculum.
Thank you. Now, if we could pass the microphone back to Katie. Thank you. This question has been raised before from the last panel. For a number of years, including this one, the county executive's budget has only included continuing Wycomico County Board of Education funding that meets maintenance of effort. Do you believe that is adequate financial support from the county? And if not, what will you do to increase the county's support?
Well, as a sitting board member, I can say that we do not think that that's adequate, and what we've done to try to increase their support is we had the council hearing the other night, and we asked many business leaders to come and speak to that point. Certainly they were expecting educators and board members to come, but I'm not sure that they were expecting all the business people to come to support education. It's the #1 economic driver of any community. Maintenance of effort to me it's in the word maintain. We can maintain the education system and run it every year on maintenance of effort because that's what we've been doing. But to move the system forward, we have to have more funding than just maintenance of effort. We need the funding to go with the Imagine 2022 that Dr. Hanlon has put out there. Universal pre-K, increase graduation rates, and retain and attract highly qualified talent to advance the school system to where it needs to be at the next level.
To the right, please.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. She was trying to give me a breather. But I happen to agree that it's not just enough just to maintain where we are. We're going to have a vision and look forward to the improvement. And in following the vision of the superintendent, I fully agree. Universal pre-K, and to all those points that my colleagues just mentioned. I agree that we have to do more to increase funding. But funding, we realize, is always difficult. Because whenever you start talking about money, everybody's wondering where's the money coming from. But if we are working together, educators, parental involvement, community leadership, it's very important to get the business community to work with us, because they would be very helpful in making that happen.
No, it's not adequate. Maintenance effort is not adequate. And the thing is, the money's there. We don't have to raise any taxes or change things. The money's there. We just have to convince the people who are controlling the money to redirect some of their money to the Board of Education. Now, that doesn't mean the Board of Education hasn't been getting money. If you go back and look at all the schools that we've had built in the last 18 years, you're going to see there's quite a few of them. If you look at all the projects that are in the mill right now to be done, that's already partially funded and they're getting ready to be done. The money is there. We just have to find a way to get this money from one place to another. And this is where we come in. What we are doing is we are building better communications with our county government instead of trying to butt heads with them. And that's the way we want to go. Make them understand where we need this money.
I believe that we do need to increase the funding for the Board of Education. It was good to see that all the candidates for county council up here were all in support of, all of them talked about education. And I hope that if I become a board member, we are able to work together so we can increase that and hold them to it, so that we can increase that funding for education, because education is the most important thing.
Well, definitely, I agree. We can hold them accountable, and I'm glad that John took notes. So we have a head count of who said that they would make changes in the budget and put it towards the school board or the school system. Not just accountability, but collaboration. We have to work with the county council and the other agencies to work, not just to maintain, because that's a minimal standard, and we're constantly growing. Technology is constantly increasing, and in order to retain the teachers that we need to look at salaries, we need to look at class ratio size, benefits, those kind of things. We also need to look at the resources that are available to our teachers and to our students. I remember going to the one public hearing where teachers were having to ask for extra money just so they could have laptops. I didn't realize that they didn't all have laptops. They have to share and schedule them like months in advance. And that's kind of difficult because you can't, use the moment. You can't, if you have a teaching moment, you can't use it. You've got to plan so far ahead in advance. So,
Thank you.
I agree with Mr. Palmer there. I think that in all phases of government, in all phases of business, I know in my business, if I can't afford to get something, I've got to look for the money to save it somewhere to get it. I think accountability needs to be done across the board, no matter what department it is. But yet, I still feel that we can find the money to take and fund it the way it should be funded.
One thing as a board member I would like to see is a line item budget for the school board. Not just lump sum funding, but I would like to see a line item budget. We have to remember that the average income of families in Wycomico County is $59,000. In the district that I would like to represent, which is District 4, about 50% of the people are retired and living on fixed incomes. And also, over 50% live in rental housing. So you have to take some view of demographics and the people in the county and the people that you are representing.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank the audience for submitting questions. Time will not allow us to ask the last two questions, and so for the candidates, if you would ponder these questions as you continue to go about the community, we would appreciate it. First question is, what will board members do to ensure fairness and punishment and the ladder of discipline in among all ethnicities? And then secondly, how do you feel about the teaching of African American history all year round? I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the candidates that are here with us tonight. Moderator for this evening, and so now I'd like to ask President Ashanti to come forward.
How much time do you plan to spend at the school? 35 hours a month.
Before
you start, we bought some food on the table, 35
President Ashanti, should we go sit down or do you want to stay here? Should we go sit down or do you want to stay here? Okay.
We want to thank everyone for attending. We want to thank Gary Travers for videotaping. We want to thank the circle leaders, the president, Mr. Edward Lee, for their donation of food. Again, we wish that you take it with you. We want to also say for the viewing audience that it's important that they register to vote, and it's important that they vote in every election. Every election. Not just for presidential election or whatever, but every election is very important. And for those that can't get out, then use the absentee ballot to vote. Just in closing, the NAACP stand on certain issues. One being social workers. We want to see more social workers in the school system to help those students that are homeless, those students that have behavior concerns. So the question that as to whether there should be more security resource officers in the school system or social workers. Social workers will benefit children, be more beneficial for children. So we would want that. We also support universal pre-K because I think without that, children are, I think someone or several people mentioned that the children that do not have pre-K are behind. By the time they get to third grade, they're behind. And my understanding is that the private sector build prisons based on the number of children that are illiterate in the third grade. So I would like to see us put our money into universal pre-K and not more money into prisons. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming. We will, after the general election, have another candidates forum, and also on the Eastern Shore Coalition. Most likely, we will be having candidates forum for those in General Assembly. And the next time that we have a candidates forum, we have your information, and those organizations that want to volunteer and work with us, we would greatly appreciate it. We also want to thank, we thank the circle leaders, but we also want to thank my sorority sisters of Delta Sigma Omega for their help. The Elks, Sandra, look at me. The Unity Lives, the Elks, Queen City, for their help. And we greatly want to thank St. James. There's no charge. We kept whoever's up after hours. So thank you. and good night.